You are listening to X Wing Radio.
Welcome back, all you fathers, brothers, nephews, cousins, former roommates. I'm David, that's Wesley, and you just tuned in to X Wing Radio, your weekly podcast from a galaxy far, far away.
You know, it took me a second to get the reference that you were making, but I was very confused. Alrighty.
It's the movie we just watched.
Yes, yeah. Well, I said it took me a second. I didn't say I didn't get it completely. Yes, I know. That's Dark Helmet is whatever you just said to the Han Solo Luke character. Today we are talking about Spaceballs, the movie, not just in general. Um,
Mm,
so
yes. And Wesley, we are recording for the last time for the first time.
So I watched this. I watched this last
I'm gonna
night
kill you
at like.
with the references.
Do you have them pulled up?
I
That's
can.
cheating.
It's just off the top of my head, but I can.
Okay, no, don't pull them up. That would make it worse. David, I watched this movie. I watched last night at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Not my brightest idea, but also about the only time I had to watch it. Um, I don't know if I was just delirious, because there's a very good chance that I was. But there were actually a couple times throughout this movie that I found myself laughing out loud, which very
Yes,
few
this.
movies honestly do. It's a okay. So to touch base on the gist of the movie, right? Baseballs came out. I think it was in 1987. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
After a bunch of the craze of Star Wars, all that stuff, and it came out as a parody in a sense of Star Wars. Now, obviously, uh they do things from other genres of science fiction. But like obviously like the main villain, if you've never watched the movie, I'm sure you've seen this character from it. But the main villain, Darth Helmet, is
Dark
a
Helmet.
parody. Dark Helmet is a parody of Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other, a lot of parallels, supposed to be a parody of Star Wars. Um, but yeah, it's an older movie, and you can definitely tell based on the way that it like the humor that it has. It is an older movie, but honestly it was pretty funny. There's a lot of dumb parts to it, but there are a lot of
Mm,
things that stuff happened, and I was like, that's legitimately funny. I might be delirious, but I'm gonna laugh at that.
yeah. Also, a disclaimer real quick before we get too much into this. Just because of the nature of a lot of the comedy in this movie, and I know we don't normally get into this, but we might have some, let's say some not too kid friendly jokes in this episode. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a disclaimer here. So I'm gonna lay that out there. So if you don't want to hear that,
Speaking of
you can
speaking of that.
tune out now. But just moving forward, be aware of that.
Speaking of that, David, now I know, like we just mentioned, this movie came out in 1987. Now, you can help me with this because I'm sure you remember when. When did they what year did they introduce PG-13 as a rating? I know that had something around the time of the Indiana Jones movies coming out, but I don't remember what year that. They've been somewhere in the 80s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So let's see
Um,
here. So
you keep looking up what you're looking up.
1984 was
Okay, so
the original Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie,
yeah.
and
Well,
that came out in 1984.
my reason for saying this, David, and you probably have an idea of where I'm going with this. Um, when I first clicked on the movie, I watched this on Amazon Prime. That's not a promotion. That's just where I watched it at. And like most streaming services, they have the rating at the top, and they'll put as to why. If there's like language or suggestive content or nudity or whatever it is, depending on what the rating is, they'll put why it's rated that. Well, this one said it was rated PG, and it said some suggestive speech or whatever, and some foul language. Not
Hmm.
much, but it said some. Well, first off, the S word was thrown out a lot throughout this movie, which, I don't know where that's supposed to rank nowadays in language, as far as like rating wise. Um, but nowadays, and we know this, nowadays, a PG-13 movie gets one F-bomb. Well, apparently back then, a PG movie got one F-bomb because there is one in here. I went back 3 times to make sure that I heard that right because I was like, wait a minute, is that allowed in a movie like this?
I did the same thing
I
because
turned on closed captioning to make sure I didn't mishear it.
okay, I I did the same thing because it's right here at the climax of the movie. The bad guys are on their ship that's about to blow up,
Hmm.
and one of them there's this whole bit of like the Lone Star, the Luke Skywalker slash Han Solo character, basically set the ship to self destruct. And so the villains are, just scrambling to try to find escape pods, and all their lackeys pretty much take them all. And so they're running around trying to figure out what to do, and the computer says, please press the cancellation button now. So they're like, oh, let's go to find the cancellation button. And then they find it, and there's a little tag that says out of order. And that's when I think it's Dark Helmet says like something about the future, even though the future stuff sucks. And then he also drops the F word there. And I had to go back and like, did I hear that right? I thought this movie was PG.
Yeah, because like I mean that was a thing that I was looking at going into this movie, and I was like, okay, it's a PG movie, so I kind of had a general idea of what to expect. And within the first couple minutes, like in that first scene, um, I mean, okay, so like this isn't as big of a thing, but like apparently there's a group of people or like everyone on the ship, their last name is a-hole or whatever, and so that's a joke that they do, right? And so like
Mhm.
that's like okay, you can see that being like a little bit more of mild language. um but like within that first couple minutes, you got a sense that hey, they're going to be using a good bit of cussing because they were using the S word a good bit, and it was just one of those things like all right, cool. But then that came around and I was like, huh, so that's a lot. So yeah, it was very. I mean, I don't care. I'm just I wasn't expecting it from a movie that was supposed to be rated PG. Because usually when you watch movies that are rated PG, like kids movies are rated PG.
Mhm.
Like
And
that's
like,
what that's what
okay,
you
like
think of.
nowadays, I think you can get away with like saying like damn or whatever in
Hmm.
PG movies nowadays, but I don't think you can say the S word or definitely not the F word in
No.
PG movies nowadays. So
Yeah. Yeah. Which it's kind of interesting to think that at least with language, that movies have gotten stricter as the years have gone on.
because
Whereas
I
once they
feel like
were once they were allowed to start cursing in movies, like they were allowed to do it more often in lower rated movies than nowadays.
because I feel like and it is an interesting. I'm not gonna get into a lot of this stuff because but it's interesting because I feel like culturally, uh, language has become more accepted in like more places.
Hmm.
So it's interesting that on TV and movies, it's stricter nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, like you're saying, it is a lot. It was a lot less culturally accepted on in real life,
Like
you know,
I've
back
heard people,
then.
I've heard people even drop the F word in public, like out loud. Like,
Yeah.
y- I feel like you did that 30 years ago. You'd give an old woman a heart attack, and a bunch of glass would shatter somewhere. Like it's like
Yeah, the nuns were watching over you at that time. But anyways, we live in a different world now. It's a lot different. But anyways, that was one thing that I was like, yeah, I want to mention that because I was not expecting that, and I wanted to see if you were in the same boat as me, which it sounds like you were. But
yeah.
anyways, David, so give me a real quick rundown of what the gist of this movie is. Um, they have like in Star Wars fashion, they have an opening crawl. And for the most part, that pretty well sums up the whole movie.
I will say I was chuckling to myself before the opening crawl even finished watching this movie
David,
because
I was laughing. The opening crawl was kind of funny. I was laughing at just how long they focused on the ship because
that's
that thing was a good 2 minutes. Anyways, go ahead, David, and get into a brief
but
summary of this, and we'll jump into the movie.
but well also about the opening crawl too. Like at the very end of the opening crawl, when the words are almost all the way like off screen, like this
Mm.
little sentence pops up at the end. It says like if you can read this, you don't need glasses.
Yes,
I don't know
so
if you caught that.
I am postponing. Yes, David, I don't need glasses. I am postponing any eye visits. We're good. That was all I needed.
Anyway, so basically the premise of the movie is I should probably pull up IMDb so I can actually have character name or remember character names because I don't
But
remember. Princess Vespa. That's the
yeah.
main princess, basically the Princess Leia in the movie.
Mhm.
And I know it's gonna get kind of annoying us saying, basically like this character of the movie, but it's a spoof of sci-fi in general, but specifically Star Wars. So that's why
Mhm.
there are so many like one-to-one parallels. Um, but so basically, Princess Vespa is getting married, and she doesn't want to marry this guy. So
The only prince apparently in the galaxy.
yeah, the only prince in the galaxy. So she decides to run away. Stories all the time. But the the Spaceballs, basically the Empire
Oh yeah, and
in the
Spaceballs is a group of is it I don't know if it's a species, but it is a planet and is a group of people. So
yeah,
there 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 is a thing like in the universe called Spaceballs.
yeah. So uh so Princess Vespa is from the planet Druidia. Apparently Druidia has a bunch of breathable air that the Spaceballs want. And that's basically the whole premise of the movie.
So
So
yeah, basically the president of Spaceballs used up somehow or another, I don't think they really get into detail, used up all the oxygen on Spaceballs. And so they're going to go steal Duridia's air, oxygen, and
yeah,
replenish it on Spaceballs.
yes. So
And yeah, that's the movie.
that's
It's an
basically
hour
the
and a
movie.
half.
So Dark Helmet's plan is pretty much to kidnap Princess Vespa and use her as blackmail to um or you basically ransom her off for the air on Druidia.
Exactly.
Also,
Um
I do want to point out, did Star Wars steal something from Spaceballs? Because that shield with the door around Druidia looked an awful lot like Scarif.
That's true. I mean, they borrowed a lot from Star Wars, so I think it's only fair Star Wars were to borrow from them, you know? The thing is some kid watched that growing up and then grew up to be a filmmaker, and someone in Star Wars, and they pitched that idea, and they're like, "Oh, that's a great idea," and they're like, "Yeah, I got that from Spaceballs," but no one needs to know that.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. Um, So, yeah, but I oversimplified. That's the plot of the movie. Is basically the Spaceballs want the air from Druidia, but
That's the
uh,
driving force of the movie.
yeah, yeah. So Princess Vespa doesn't want to get married, so she hops in her Mercedes. Yes, and flies
2001
away.
Mercedes.
2001 Mercedes and flies away,
Yep.
which is exactly what the Spaceballs want, pretty much.
With her droid, Dot.
Yes.
With her completely gold droid, Dot. A female
Yeah.
version of C-3PO,
W-
basically.
w- w- yeah. So the Spaceballs come by and pick her up while she's running away, and use her as leverage to no, actually, before the Spaceballs can get her, they actually have her stuck in a tractor beam, and then her father, King, I don't see his name right now, King Roland.
Okay.
King Roland calls Lone Star, basically the Han Solo type character, to come
And
rescue
their ship is a flying
Winnebago.
RV. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
the
as
Millennium
you mentioned,
Winnebago.
and as you mentioned, they because Lone Star is flying around with his first
Uh,
mate.
I'm not gonna lie, David. I mean, I get the point, but I, I mean, a lot of things from the 80s and 90s were a little disturbing, and this was just another one of those. Like, yeah, I didn't care for that character's look a whole lot. I forget what they called him, but essentially he was
He's a
half
Mog.
man. He's a
He's
Mog,
a
which
Mog.
means he's half man, half dog, which basically means he's his own best
Okay,
friend.
okay. If you've ever if you've ever seen
Does
the
that mean I'm a
movie
Mog?
if you've ever seen the movie Cats, think of that. Not actually not
Yeah.
as bad as that, but so
It's not the
it's,
worst thing in the world. It's just a little disturbing, more than I was
yeah,
caring to watch.
yeah. Anyway, he's a Mog and his name is Morph.
Yeah, his name
Yeah.
is Barf. It's basically what you want to do when you see. Nah, he's not that bad, but
I
yeah,
mean the character's funny, but it's just
yeah. No, the characters.
it's
I
just
mean, hey, the actor did a great job portraying the character. It's just
it's the look of the character.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, so they swoop in, save Princess Vespa, and they're on their way. Um, Now another, I think they only actually made a joke about this once, but basically the captain of the I think it's Spaceballs 1 or whatever. Basically the Dark Helmet's ship. Captain of the ship is named Colonel Sanders. And surprisingly, they only made one chicken joke.
yes, yes. I don't think that I realized his name was actually Colonel Sanders. I thought at first uh that they were making a joke, like he was saying, "Are you chicken?" Like Colonel Sanders. Not that his name was actually Colonel Sanders. I didn't pick up on that was actually his name from the right off the bat. But yeah, they only made that joke once.
Which when they first said his name was Colonel Sanders, I expected a ton of jokes.
Yeah.
But
Um.
whatever.
Oh, another thing, and obviously we'll get into this as we go over the rest of the movie. There is a lot of uh meta-ness to this movie, a lot of fourth wall breaks. There's a whole scene. I mean, part of the plot is driven because of this, and we'll get to that in a second here. But it's kind of funny just how like how much they go into to the the fourth wall breaks and being meta with this movie. I mean, obviously, this movie was not meant to be serious. This is a comedy. So it's
Mhm.
stupid and funny, but it's meant to be stupid and funny. Um, but anyway, so let's see. Not long story short. So after they rescue the princess, um, they start. Well, obviously, the Han and Leia uh dynamic kicks in with them both arguing with each other, uh and you know Han's like, this is my ship, and she's like, I'm a princess, and you know all that stuff. um and then they have to figure out, I guess, how to escape at that point, because they're still in the general vicinity of the
So
flagship, so they have to get out of there.
so they use their secret hyper engines.
They called him
I think
something. What they
that's
call him?
think that's what they call them. Secret hyper secret is something. Basically, they're light speed engines. So they engage those and fly away. Oh, also we missed a joke. We missed something that I did, like, it's dumb, but I laughed at it. So when Lone Star, well, also we missed another thing too.
Go back
So
and catch up us on all these.
yeah. So Lone Star and Barf owe money, 1,000 base dollars.
Yeah, space dollars, what they call them.
Yeah, they owe everything, like anything that we have today. If you want to make it futuristic, it's just add space in front of it. Space dollar. So
Basically,
it's
basically.
a space RV. It's
Yeah.
anyway. Anyway, so they owe 1,000, no, not 1,000, 1,000,000 space dollars to
I
Pizza the
think no,
Hut.
it starts out as 1,000, but then it ends up being 1,000,000. But that's
Yeah,
beside the point.
to Pizza the Hut,
Yes, the
which
with Pizza the Hut coming on screen, it makes Barf so much more appealing
yeah,
to look at.
yeah, that was that was probably the one point in the movie where like
Yeah,
I
that was a
wanted to
little.
look away. It's like
Um, the character who first calls Lone Star, as like kind of a like he calls him first, and then Pizza the Hut comes on the call. Uh, by the end of it is like something about, oh yeah, you're so delicious or something like that. And is like eating some of the pepperonis off that are falling down. Like, he looks like it's just a bunch of cheese melting down. It is very disturbing. If you have not seen the movie, I will recommend it, but don't look it up. Don't look up that specific thing. Um, to
or do
get
if you want to.
past or do to get past the point though, at the end of the movie they find out that Pizza the Hut died because he was locked inside of some car or his limousine or whatever
When he ate
and ate
himself.
himself.
Yeah,
So anyways, continue on with the getting to the
right.
joke.
But that's why Lone Star needs the money because King Roland hired him for 1,000,000 space dollars. Basically, it's the same thing. The same thing of Han owing money to Jabba the Hutt, and anyway.
Yeah.
But no, when they're trying to rescue Princess from a tractor beam from Spaceballs 1, they jam Spaceballs 1's sensors by throwing an actual jar of jam at the sensor,
Yes.
and it's
And
raspberry.
somehow that gets inside to the monitor inside and starts leaking down the screen, which is when Dark Helmet tastes it and realizes it's raspberry, realizes that it's Lone Star, because apparently Lone Star is the only one that uses raspberry.
Yeah. So anyway, they make their escape using the secret engine, hyperspace, whatever, and then catch up with them. Dark Helmet orders their ship to go to ludicrous speed, which is 2 steps above light speed,
I know
because
one's ridiculous. What's the other one?
it goes light speed, ridiculous, ludicrous.
Well, I thought there was two before uh oh,
Was
ridiculous,
there?
ludicrous. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, ridiculous, ludicrous. Anyway, so that results in
Yeah.
obviously space logic goes out the window. um,
They end
that
up
results in
overshooting
dark.
them.
Yeah, they end up
But go ahead.
overshooting them, and they go into plaid or something. I don't even remember what
Yeah,
they
it's
said.
like there's like a bunch of colors that just shoot across the screen, and as they overshoot the Lone Star's ship, what do they end up calling that? Um, as they overshoot the ship, though, they're like, "Oh wow, they just went into plaid," or something stupid. Uh,
It's
but anyways, yeah, hmm?
yeah, it's just the Eagle 5 is what the one Lone Star ship is called.
Eagle 5. But they instead of slowing down though, they come to a complete stop, and before they started, everyone was told to buckle up, right? Well, everyone did except for Dark Helmet. He was like, "No, I'm good." Well, so he's sitting there on the bridge with his feet dangling behind him the whole entire time. And he tells the captain, he says, "Stop! We gotta turn around. Just completely stop the ship." And he's like, "All right, cool." So he does. He stops it, and he goes flying forward and dies.
Yep. No, he
Short
doesn't
movie,
die. Um,
slapstick comedy. He just has a dent in his helmet now.
yeah. So anyway, um, forget what exactly happens in this part, but
Aren't they out of gas?
hmm?
Aren't they out of
That's
gas?
it. That's it. That's it. So yes.
It's
So
because they make a comment. They make a comment about. It's like I told you we should have filled up with more than $5, which nowadays $5 will get you nothing. Five
you
bucks
might
probably
you.
wasn't that much back then,
I
but
mean, $5 you might be able to get out of the gas station parking lot before you run out of gas again.
yeah.
But
So
um,
also with them using their hyperdrive thingy-mabobber, that used up more gas. So they need
yeah,
more gas, but they're out of gas, so they just kind of have to land on the planet below.
yeah, which happens to be Tatooine.
Tatooine.
No, it.
You and I
I
have
don't
the
remember
same
what the
thought.
I don't remember what the actual name of the planet was in the movie, but basically it was Tatooine, where
Basically Tatooine.
they find yogurt. It's plain yogurt though.
Well, before we get to that, the first night that they camp, we start to get a little bit more because when they first land, I think when they land is when we first see Lone Star and Velma, what's her name?
Vespa.
Vespa. They first meet, and before they meet, they're on opposite ends of the ship. Uh, Lone Star is in the front, flying the ship, and in the back is Vespa and all that. The droid Dot. Anyways, they're both like, "Oh, I know exactly what to expect." All all of his kind or this and this and this, and he's like, all princesses are this and this, and then they come and stop, and they're two attractive people, and they're like, oh, but then they still want to fight a little bit more, so they're bickering and yada yada yada. So, anyways, that first night they get there, and they're they're starting to get closer, and they find out this is an important thing for later, but they find out that apparently Lone Star was left at a monastery on some planet. He was orphaned, and all he was left with was this little medallion thing around his neck that he couldn't get anyone in the universe to translate for him. It's in some speech that uh, they can't read or whatever. And so, uh, anyways, they're getting closer, and they start to lean in to kiss. And the robot over here is she has a little thing across her chest that has a like a display, and it says what she's doing. And so it says sleep mode. So as they're getting closer and closer, it all of a sudden cuts off, and then cuts to a different thing, and it says virginity alert. And she gets up, and she's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And what was it? What I'm trying to remember what the wording was. Um, there's something about like he was like, what's that?" And she was like, "I'm supposed to stop you before you get started, or no, what was it? Do you remember how it was worded? This is the funniest thing, and I don't remember how it was worded, but I remember dying laughing over that joke. It was like
I think it was something like stop you before you get started. Oh, man, can't think of the quote though.
yeah, that I'm annoyed that I don't remember what it was, but it was like something about, uh, this is finished before you get finished or something like that. Like it was something along those lines. But it was so funny because like the virginity alert popped up, and that's kind of the humor of this movie. So probably falls very well in line with what me and David are. I mean, we're big Office fans, so we have the maturity of a 5-year-old. But did you end up finding it?
Um, let's see here. No, I can't find. I don't see the quote here, but yeah, something along those lines.
See, I got
Anyway,
something. I got something here, so I might be able to find it. Um, let's see, not that one. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. So I got it's a Screen Rants article. Oh, does it only go down to 10, 11? Where's the rest of them? Do I have to keep scrolling? No, it doesn't have no. And it's supposed to be like the best quotes from the movie.
yeah, that's what I'm
And it
looking
has
into, but
like,
I don't see it in here.
say mine only goes down to 11, and I don't see a thing that I can hop over and find. If you're gonna say you got like 30 quotes, then give me the quote. Here, I got the video right here. I'm gonna
Why
pull
did
this
your
thing up.
inflection just sound like John Mulaney?
Oh, yeah. I watch a lot of that. No, that's not the right one. No, not the. It pulled up. It pulled up a clip of them rescuing, which is not what I want. Which you find out
Hmm.
she has such a very deep voice. I don't know.
Oh gosh.
It honestly, to me, that was probably the funniest part of the movie for me. I don't know why.
Mhm. Anyway, but yeah, so on this planet they also meet yogurt. But don't worry, he's plain yogurt. Yes, they make that joke. Basically, this is the Yoda character.
All right, I got it. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, Barf asks, he says, "What was that?" And she says, "That's my virgin alarm. It's programmed to go off before you do."
That's the kind of jokes you can expect if you watch this movie.
Yes, yes. That was probably that was probably one of my favorite ones in the movie
Hmm.
because yeah, that was kind of unexpected but like really funny.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
anyways,
what
continue on with what you were talking about.
like so that they find yogurt on this planet, and basically yogurt is the Yoda parallel, except he's not green, he's gold.
He's also the king of the Ewoks, not the Ewoks. Dang it! I knew that was wrong. Why did I say it? The king of the Jawas.
Yeah, and he's also in charge of merchandising
Oh yeah, they go big
for
into yeah. Good.
merchandising, for the movies that they're in.
Obviously,
Um,
obviously.
yeah.
Which
He's also mastered the Schwartz.
well, Dave, tell me a little about the shorts. Not the shorts, the Swartz, whatever it's called.
Well, it's you ever heard of the Force?
No,
The Force from Star Wars.
no. And
Well,
also,
it's
your
like the
screen is frozen on my end. Is it not frozen on your end? I don't know why it is.
no, it's fine on
Okay,
my
I can
end. And
hear you. Second,
I have full bars, so I don't know.
and
Anyway,
I can hear you just
um,
fine. So continue.
well, as long as I
Tell me
say
about the
it's good.
Schwartz.
Well, it's like the Force from Star Wars, except less dumb.
Okay, okay. Well, how does it work?
I don't know.
Oh, that's true. They don't really get into it that much in this movie. Before this scene, the only time we see it is when Dark Helmet shoots a guy in the nuts. I don't know. That was his
Yeah,
version of
he uses his because basically it's like this little ring thing that you can use the
yeah.
Schwartz with, and Dark Helmet hits one of the Spaceballs in his Spaceballs, and um,
It's
basically the
the
equivalent of
obvious it's the obvious joke, but I don't know why I was so off taken off guard by you saying that.
it's basically
Okay.
the
Well,
equivalent of Darth Vader force choking. And what's funny is like
yeah.
every
And
time
it's
and throughout the movie after this, every time Dark Helmet gets angry around the Spaceballs, they all over their crotch
now
because
one thing I do want to mention. Now, obviously, like if you've seen Spaceballs or if you know anything about the movie, Dark Helmet, like as a character, looks a little dumb. Obviously, it's a comedy. It's supposed to be like that. But to further the lack of intimidation that he should have, besides the fact that he can shoot people in their spaceballs. Uh, the character is played by what's his name, Rick Moranis, uh, a big comedian from that time. Um, and I think one thing that I've seen him in other than this is like Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Mhm.
Um, he's in those. He was in a bunch of other comedies back in the day. He's a comedian and he's not at all intimidating. So it's kind of funny that like everyone's so intimidated by this. I mean, obviously, I mean, if he shot me in the Spaceballs, then sure, I'd
Mm.
probably be a little intimidated by him. But it's funny that this guy who doesn't have it, like when he has the mask down, his voice gets a little deeper, but he kind of has a little bit of a shrill voice, and everyone's like, so intimidated by this guy over here.
Also, like when he's got the helmet down, he kind of looks like a bobblehead. So maybe not even
Yeah,
then.
yeah, no, it's just that, yeah, it's it's just kind of funny, but
Yeah,
but yeah, so we find out that yeah, there's this little ring that the guy has, and Yogurt even has Lone Star train a little bit with it by lifting one of the statues that they have. Um, and he's learning how to use it. He gets about as much training from Yogurt that Ray gets from Luke. Actually, no, sorry, I don't want to compare the two. He gets more training from Yogurt than Ray gets from Luke.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So the Spaceballs finally track down the Lone Star and Princess Vespa and Barf. And they finally
Well, how
track him
how do
down to
they
this
do that? Because it seems like it'd be impossible for them to do that. How do they go about doing that?
I'm blanking. How do they explain how they track him
Oh,
down?
I thought you would have known. Okay, so this is the moment when they do the fourth wall break. So
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. I forgot about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I just
So
watched the
what
movie,
they
so I should
do,
know.
yeah, you and me both. You and me both. So what they do is they go to they're trying to figure out where they're at. They got a little bit pressure from the president, which it's funny how they go about doing Spaceballs hierarchy because whenever they go to the Spaceballs planet and like they have events taking place on that, um, it looks like the dome down in DC is like sitting on
Capitol
top.
building. Yep.
Um, yeah, and then we have they have the president, and all that stuff. Um, yeah, the Spaceballs government is a combination of the U.S. government, uh, Nazi Germany, and the Empire. So, anyways, um, but yeah, so the way that they go about finding it is the Colonel Sanders suggests that they just watch the Spaceballs movie, the one that they're making as of
How does that work?
talking about it. Well, it's a new technology that they have where they can watch the movie before it's even done being made. Viewers can watch the movie before it even gets done being made. So what they do is they go and they sit down, they put the VHS in, and then they fast forward through the movie, and they get to the point where they're doing what they're doing, which kind of throws Dark Helmet off a little bit. He's a little confused. Uh, but then they do
Wait,
that, and then
they can watch
what?
themselves like now?
Yeah, like yeah, like then.
But, but what if then is now?
Well, now is then, but now then is then.
But then when is now?
Now,
I can't do it justice. But I don't remember the whole scene. But
we're butchering the whole thing, honestly.
yeah,
Um,
but
but
there's a whole like who's on first kind of conversation between Colonel Sanders and Dark Helmet at this point, but they managed to fast forward ahead and um the, find the planet that Lone Star and all them are on.
yes. Let's see.
Yeah, you'd think they would fast forward ahead even more and figure out that they lose.
What they're not that smart, so obviously not.
Well,
Um,
Dark Helmet himself said that the reason evil triumphs over good is because good is stupid. So what does that make evil?
morons. But anyways, yeah,
Fair
they,
enough.
they find out what planet they're on, so they go there. Uh, and so they're sitting there, and they tell the president that they've located the planet in which this princess is on, and he says, "All right, comb the area and find her." So that's exactly what they do.
Yep, they got giant combs and start combing the desert.
Huh. Are we being too literal? No.
We're following orders.
We're following orders, which I love. Whenever he's
Oh,
on the sand planet, he's in a safari outfit with a giant bobblehead-esque safari hat on his head. Like it covers the whole head like the helmet does. And there's this little face flap that he has. And like it's pretty funny.
mm, yeah.
Um so despite the fact that they were legitimately combing the area. They do come across the entrance, I guess it's like the back door to Yogurt's hideout, which is something that Dark Helmet recognizes and is like, well, I can't go in there because there's an upside, there's a downside. I got the downside, he got the upside, and so this isn't gonna work. I can't face him in there, but we can lure her out, and so they do that and they capture her again. He poses as her dad somehow. They don't really explain it, but he poses as her dad
Hmm.
and kidnap her.
Hmm.
So now, Lone Star and Barf are off to go save the princess. But before they go, Yogurt gives Lone Star two things: a snack and the ring.
Also, before when Yogurt was training Lone Star how to use the Schwartz, he told Lone Star that the Lone Star showed him the medallion thing he had and asked if he could translate it. And Yogurt told Lone Star that it would get revealed when the time is right, what it
Exactly.
meant.
Exactly.
So, they go off on all that, go off to save the princess.
Um, the snack I was referring to was a fortune cookie, which later is what ends up being what reveals what the thing says to him. Um, yeah, he gets the ring, he takes it, and they're off. Uh, so it's interesting because of like when you're watching this, and you and I being Star Wars fans, and probably most people who watch it being Star Wars fans. Oh, you're back! You're moving again. That's cool. Um, but anyways, on my screen. But anyways, so it's funny to see how they took inspiration with the different bits of the movie. Like when they go to rescue the princess, obviously there's a lot of callbacks to A New Hope with them going to the Death Star. Obviously, this is a doomsday device type ship. We find out a little bit later. But there's also a couple parallels I noticed to like um Bespin on Empire. More
Mm,
so with the escaping, but you know, there are a couple parallels. Like it's interesting to see how they go about calling out those parallels. But they go to rescue the princess um by landing their ship and then getting some guards to come on board and then stealing their outfits. Which David, did you notice later on when they finally get the princess and they're going out how uh Barf and Lone Star no longer have the helmets on? They did at one
mm,
point, but they no longer have them on. and the helmets that they had on are now on the troopers who are only in their underwear,
Mm. But
which they would
before
not have
they
had.
actually, but before they actually get in, oh wait, hold on. Am I thinking of the right moment?
Mm. Well, what are you thinking of, and we'll discuss that.
When does they because at some point through all this, um, the Spaceballs actually get the code, open the shield for the on Druidia.
Oh,
Was it
that would
before
be
the
before
rescue?
they rescue her,
Yeah. Okay.
because they use her as leverage. They're going to
Yeah.
reverse her nose job that was done.
Yeah. Because apparently she had a a nose that looked very similar to Wesley's before, and then um
Slightly smaller, honestly.
and then now of course she's got a better looking nose. So they're gonna reverse the nose job unless King Roland gives the code. And Wesley, what is this super secret code?
Well, David, let me tell you what it is. Okay, are you ready?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can remember this, but okay.
Okay, it's one, two,
Okay.
three,
Okay.
4, 5.
Hey, that's the same PIN number I have on my phone.
That's the super secret code that they have. Obviously it's, joke. But so they do all that, and then Colonel Sanders goes ahead and cuts the transmission to the cuts the TV off with the transmission to what's the king's name?
King Roland.
Roland? King Roland. So he cuts the transmission to that. And inadvertently he cuts the whole TV off. You have to like actually turn your TV back on at that point in time to watch the rest of the movie.
Yep. Yep. Anyway, so Barf and Lone Star, get there and they kind of reminiscent of the cell block scene in A New Hope. They rescue Vespa and Dot, and so they're making their escape. Um, so yeah, they're running down this hallway, and there's this door closing. Right,
Hmm.
they're being chased by Spaceballs, and so they have to jump through this door that's closing because it's coming from the top and the bottom. So they jump through before it closes. So they do,
But
but
they're
then on the other
surrounded when they go on the other side.
yeah, they're surrounded when they get to the other side. There's Spaceballs there, and then Colonel Sanders shows up. He gives this
Was that
whole he gives this
was
whole
that Colonel
spiel about
Sanders?
how they're is it
That
Colonel
was
Sanders?
another officer. It was another officer, I think.
And it might be another officer, yeah. So they get there. He's giving this whole spiel about how they're caught, and then he tells them to turn around because they were facing the Spaceballs that were on the other side of them. So he tells them to turn around so he can look at them, and come to find out they caught the stunt doubles.
What idiots. I love how that's like the thing they did. I mean, obviously, the earlier in the movie, the only reason that the Spaceballs found them was because they watched the movie. But here, the only reason they escaped is because, the movie was like, yeah, we're just gonna have them catch the stunt doubles.
Hmm.
And then we cut to them and they're, running down the hall, getting
So
getting out
they get
on
back
the
to the
ship.
Eagle Five. They get back to the Eagle Five, and Barf says that they lock the keys in the Winnebago. So they're having to try to figure out how to get in, and Lone Star is about to get into the door, and then a bunch of Spaceballs show up there on the in the hangar, and so Vespa is holding a rifle, and she's going on about how she doesn't like guns until one of the Spaceballs hits her hair. Apparently, that's the most egregious thing you can do. She goes full on
She goes,
rainbow and kills them
yeah, I
all.
was about to say. She goes, well, the funny thing is like, so this is the radius at which they're shooting, and they are, right? Because there's got this narrow little bridge, and so
Mhm.
this is the radius. Obviously, you say she goes full on Rambo, most people probably know what you mean. But yeah, she goes, starts over here, starts firing, and she's like, I'm not gonna miss any, and just goes clean across the screen. But yeah, she's over here acting all dainty and everything, like, oh, I'm not gonna fire a gun, I'm a princess. And then her hair gets in, she goes, all right, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I think first Rambo First Blood came out in '82, so that I think that actually was that.
Well, they
Actually, I
made
think
a reference
I
to it.
think they actually made a
Yeah.
reference to it in the movie. But I mean that that was obviously a reference to Rambo. Well, that would have been Rambo
Hmm.
2. But anyway, which
They still made a
Rambo
reference to it.
2 was like 84, 85, 83. I don't know. It was
No
mid
matter
80s.
when it came out,
Anyway,
no matter when it came
it
out,
was,
they were referencing it.
it was before Rambo 2 was before Spaceballs because they were making reference to that. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so they take off and they're all safe now, except Spaceballs now have the code to get into the planet, to get into Druidia to steal the air.
That little
But
door we were talking about earlier with the gate that sealed the whole planet off, they know what the code is to that, so that's what they have
yeah,
now.
yeah. So how are they gonna steal all the air though?
Well, it's very simple, David. Obviously, their ship is going to transform into a maid with a vacuum and is going to suck it all up. Suck,
What?
suck, 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 suck. Yeah, no, that's exactly how they go about doing it. Their their
So
their 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 ship is a transformer.
oh, interesting.
It was an interesting choice.
So what are they gonna do about this?
Well, as we have been told, uh, Lone Star has the Swartz, which
Huh?
means from a long distance, he can flip that switch from suck to blow, which is actually, I think, on to reverse. But, So as basically as the last little bit of oxygen is leaving Druidia, he flips it and it starts blowing back out.
I think I saw that quote on the Screen Rant article.
So which
It
one?
makes the comment about that. Where is this? This was another one of those lines that got like um yeah. So Colonel Sanders, yeah, it's Mega Maid, sir. She's gone from something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we get too far away from it, where was it? Uh, I believe it's when they first get to Druidia to suck up the oxygen. Uh, but the president, um, which looks like his name is President Scroob, who we haven't really talked
Mhm,
about a whole lot in this movie. He had a couple parts in this, more or less important. But anyways, when he first gets to the bridge, he says the ship is too big. If I walk, the movie will be over. And another instance of them breaking that fourth wall and talking about, all that. So I
mhm,
found that line funny, and I was reading through the quotes here, and that was one of the ones on here.
yeah.
But anyways, continue.
Um, which apparently, President Scroob is played by Mel Brooks, who's the director of
Yeah,
Spaceballs. Um,
yeah. Honestly, there are a lot of big name people, like from this era, big name people, well known names, uh, in this movie.
Hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so they go, Lone Star and Barf and Vespa, they go on into this, the Mega Maid to, destroy it. Because, obviously, if they once they get it back online, they can just suck up all the air again. So they need to destroy it. So they go into the ear,
Hmm.
and obviously, because it's a giant maid, obviously all the vital stuff is, where the brain is, because why wouldn't you build it anatomically correct? Um,
Exactly. What's the point of building it if you're not going to build it like that? So they go
yeah.
in and they get out of the ship. Lone Star gets out of the ship and makes his way to where the self-destruct button is.
Hmm.
Um
And this is
he
where.
he Vulcan nerve pinches a one of the guards with
Hmm.
the help of that guard. Um it's funny. He comes around the corner and he grabs him by like the top of his neck, and the guard's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm trying to do the Vulcan neck pinch on you, whatever he calls it." And he's like, "Oh, no, no! If you're gonna do that, it's much lower on the neck, right about here." And he goes, oh, "Okay," does it, and the and the guard just collapses.
Hmm.
And then the next one, he goes in. There's one guy in the bathroom or something like that, and he sprays uh, not whipped cream,
Shaving cream.
um, shaving cream. Yeah, I do not shave with whipped cream. Anyways,
I don't shave.
um, yeah, we know, David. You just eat the whipped cream. Okay. So, anyways, he gets to the control panel with the self-destruct button, and right as he's about to do it, actually no, before he's about to do it, Dark Helmet comes out,
Hmm.
and they
And
meet
this
for
is
the
where,
first time, the last time.
for the last time. And it's also where Dark Helmet reveals that he's Lone Star's father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
Perfect.
You know what that makes him to Lone Star?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Obviously, this is the Luke, I'm your father.
Yes. Um, and then they both ignite their ring sabers, compare sizes, and they're roughly about the same size. But hey, the real test is if you know how to wield it. So
Hmm.
they
Yeah. So um, Dark Helmet makes a comment that Lone Star Schwartz is as big as his is. um, yeah, they proceed to fight, and then so they fight for a while, and then Dark Helmet's like, what does he say? Basically like, basically he's like, well, this is obviously a draw. Let's shake on it, and he uses that to steal Lone Star's ring. And that's when he makes the comment of, like, evil will always triumph because good is an idiot.
Yeah. And he goes, "All right, yeah, I'm gonna be a nice guy. Here's your ring back." And then as he's handed it to him right before Lone Star can grab it, he throws it into a grate and it falls down into
Mm-hmm.
like some vent or whatever. And so now Lone Star is basically left helpless uh
Hmm.
with uh with the
Yeah,
with nothing.
Lone Star's backed into a corner, and Dark Helmet is getting ready to shoot him in the Spaceballs with his Schwartz, and that's when Yogurt tells him to use the Schwartz.
Yeah. And he said it was never about the ring. It was always inside you.
Hmm. So he Schwartz over this mirror, That was over where
Sorry.
the guy was shaving.
Essentially, for anyone who's wondering, I just gave David a look that said that there was a "that's what she said" joke somewhere in there. Continue.
So
For those listening on
he,
podcast.
he schwartz over this he schwartz over this mirror and then uses it to defend his Spaceballs.
And in turn
And
attacks
deflects
dark helmets,
yeah,
Spaceballs.
deflects Dark Helmet's quartz beam his Spaceball. Y'all,
And
there's so many things here that can be taken out of context.
yes, yes. But I don't know if there's really any good context for these things to be said in. Okay.
Oh,
After that, he goes and he pulls the lever with the self-destruct and everything. And then, like we said earlier, this is when there's the hijinks of everything going on, where the Colonel Sanders, the president, and Dark Helmet are trying to find an escape pod. Doesn't end up working because all of them are occupied by the underlings. So when
and a bear.
the and a bear. I don't even know what that was about. The president's like, well, there's only one more space pod or escape pod. This is a fine ship, so how about y'all go down with it? And he goes and he gets in. And I don't know if he just didn't know the bear was there, but he goes and he sits down on the bear's lap, grabs its arms and pulls it around it, realizes that the bear is holding him, and he jumps up. The bear kind of pushes him off of himself, and then he's like, and then he shuts the door. So, anyways, that all happens for some reason, and then the voice comes over the intercom and says, like, it's counting down. It's like 10 seconds. And it's like, you know, uh, yeah, now is the last chance to cancel the self-destruct. So they run to the main bridge, go through the whole thing we were talking about earlier with the F-bomb and all that stuff. Uh, fail, and the whole ship blows up and lands on the Planet of the Apes planet,
Yeah,
which was an interesting tie-in.
yeah. So now Vespa's back on Druidia. All's good.
David, before we get too far from that, I do want to mention, the maid first turned into the maid, my first thought was, oh, it looks like the Statue of Liberty, which I guess was on purpose because later on, if anyone's seen the or I don't know, I've only seen a couple of the Planet of the Apes movies, but there's like the Statue of Liberty look like thing with like the head in the sand and
yeah,
the torch sticking up. So they kind of copy that with later at the end of the movie.
yeah,
They show what
yeah,
happened to him, and I was like, oh, so they actually were trying to make that reference. So, anyways, continue with the rest of the movie.
yeah. Um, so Vespa's back on Druidia and getting forced to get married again. Um, this is Lone Star decides not to take the payment because Pizza the Hut got locked in his own limousine and ate himself. Is
How
that
you
whole
do that?
mess? I mean, he is made of pizza, covered in pizza. Anyway,
Moving on really fast.
um, so uh, Lone Star decides to take the um million space dollars. So he and Barf go off on their own, and they stop off at this uh roadside space diner, and there's this what?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So now, I don't know if you've ever seen Alien.
I know enough about it.
Okay, so I have seen mm, most of them, most of the Alien movies. So it's not like it's not that I'm fine with with that kind of thing. But when you're not expecting it,
Yeah.
because okay, so John Hurt is and a group of other people are over here at this table in the diner, and they're just talking about whatever. And then uh, John Hurt just stands up and starts like convulsing, throwing up. Um, which is kind of funny because there's this throwaway line. Barf talks to the waitress. He's just like, because Barf and Lone Star had already ordered. And Barf talks to the waitress, like, what did he order? And it was the same thing Barf ordered. So he's like, I'm going to change my order. Anyway,
Yeah.
so um, then John Hurt falls over onto the table, and a xenomorph pops out of his chest, and then proceeds to dance across the bar to "Hello, My Baby," and then jump out a window.
Yeah. It's also funny, John Hurt's character's like, oh, not again.
Because John Hurt was the character in the original Alien that
Oh, he wasn't? I've never
the
seen,
xenomorph
I don't know the
busted out
cast
of.
of it.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize that that was him. I didn't realize he was, I mean, it was obviously a lot younger version of him than I'm used to seeing.
Mhm.
But, I didn't realize that was John Hurt, um, until I was looking at the cast list here and I saw it was John Hurt. So, didn't
Yeah.
realize he was in this movie. I don't know if necessarily he's how big of, I mean, if he was in the Alien franchise, then I guess he's a bigger-ish actor. But that then again, that shows more people in this movie that are just, big names. But yeah, the funny thing about that scene is there's no point to that scene. Besides, I think, no, never mind. They find out, is that where they find out that Pizza the Hutt's dead? Anyways, there's not really much
No,
point to it, but I
it's
thought it was
before
earlier.
they find out Pizza the Hutt's dead earlier. No, basically the whole point of this was just the Alien reference.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying though, is besides
Yeah.
them making a reference, there's no, to the movie, there is no point for this scene, which is kind
Yeah.
of funny. So then after this scene though, um, uh, I guess while they're at the diner, they don't end up eating their food, which to be fair, if an alien popped out of someone in a restaurant, and they had eaten the food and that's, what happened, I probably wouldn't eat there either. But Barf is a little hungry. And so he is like, "Hey, can we stop somewhere?" And he's like, "They're like, well, I got this fortune cookie that yogurt gave me, so you can eat that." And so he gives him the fortune cookie, and he says, "All right, well, here, let's open it up." So he opens it up, and holographic image, I guess, of yogurt pops out, and he says, "Okay, it is time for you to find out what your medallion says." And he says, basically, what it's telling you is that you are a legitimate prince of some place. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the other guy is not the only prince in the galaxy. So Princess Vanilla Von
Yes.
Vespa. Oh, it starts with a V. Princess Vespa can marry him instead. So then after this whole scene, we cut over to her at the wedding, uh, and a very very anxious priest trying to get a wedding ceremony done.
Mhm. So yeah, Vespa keeps interrupting the priest while he's trying to, marry them. So he gets very frustrated by the end of it. And so then Lone Star shows up and it's like you know, basically, did the whole thing of, do you want to marry me or whatever, and then interrupting the service, want to marry me or whatever, and then the priest is like, well, I just want to marry someone, so
There's a quote
the,
here under the Screen Rants article, and the quote is, "Excuse me, I'm trying to conduct a wedding here, which has nothing to do with love. Please be quiet." So each time he gets interrupted, he tries to shorten the wedding more and more. So by the time
Mm,
he actually gets to perform the wedding for Lone Star and Vanilla,
Vespa.
I'm not gonna remember this name. Vespa. Um, he he's like, do you? Yes, do you? Okay, you're married.
You're married.
And they
Kiss
live
her. Yeah.
happily ever after. Yeah, married, kiss her, and he
Yeah.
walks off. But yeah, and that's besides I think after that is when they show the Planet of the Apes reference, um,
Mm,
which is more than a reference. They actually have two apes ride up on um horses and like
mm.
have a whole scene with it. But yeah, that's basically Spaceballs.
And apparently there's a series too.
I saw that. I'm curious.
I I both kind of want to because okay. So here's the thing with that. So you know how like '80s spin-off stuff is like okay, like the Ewok movies or the
Yeah,
holiday special. We know stuff like this. It's just
weird.
it's hilarious because it's bad. So I don't know if you take a like do something like that, a spin-off of a spoof. I don't know where that's gonna put you. It might be amazing. It might be so bad that it's hilarious. It you know, it
I
might be
think
so
it's
bad that it
something.
actually is amazing.
I think it's something that David, at some point, we're just gonna have to check out.
So I just pulled it up on Prime here, and so it's Spaceballs, the animated series, is what came up, and the date is 2008.
Huh.
So yeah, I'm not. There's 15 episodes.
Yeah,
Oh
so that was only
gosh.
one season, so
Okay. So I'm just gonna read some of these names from for episodes. So episode one is watch your ASIC park. Watch your ASIC park. Um, let's see. Episode three is Grand Theft Starship. Episode four is Revenge of the Sithie. Uh, episode five is Spaceballs of the Caribbean: The Whistle of Destiny. Episode six is Harry Potter. Episode seven is Lord of the Onion Ring. Episode eight, The Scrubinator. Episode nine, Duridian Idol. Let's see. Some of those aren't as funny. Uh, episode 14 is The Avenge of the Dark Helmet, and then episode 15 is The Schwartz Strikes Back.
David, I think that no matter how long it is before we go about doing this, I do think we probably should check that out.
I had a lot of fun watching this movie, so I wouldn't mind more. But
Yeah,
yes,
I think it would definitely be
I,
interesting. Hey, David, anything is better than the Ewok movies. Anything is better than the holiday special, which we will actually be watching next month. Oh God. Oh well. Let's block that out with thoughts of this movie.
yeah,
David, what are your final thoughts on this movie to go ahead and wrap up?
I thought this movie was hilarious. I highly recommend watching. even if you're not really like, a super fan of Star Wars, if you're just a fan of sci-fi, watch this movie. It's hilarious. It pokes fun at like I know we already mentioned Alien and Planet of the Apes and of course Star Wars, but it also pokes fun at like Star Trek and there were some other references, but I'm blanking on them now. But it pokes fun at like
Bunch.
every big sci-fi. Like there were probably like Buck Rogers and Doctor Who that I didn't pick up on. Um,
I think personally, if you have a vague knowledge of sci-fi, you're gonna like this movie. And even if you don't like sci-fi, or like even if sci-fi is not specifically your thing, but you're into comedies, there's a bunch of jokes going around this movie that are not pertaining to any of those. Like we said, they make references to like Colonel Sanders. That's not sci-fi. That was just a funny joke that they put in there. They make meta joke. I mean, there's a bunch of different
honestly,
things throughout this movie.
honestly, the Colonel Sanders joke. Honestly, looking back at it, I think it might be funnier that they only did one chicken joke.
I mean, we've talked about it multiple times throughout
so,
this, so
that,
maybe the fact
so
that they did one makes it stand out more.
so that means that they literally named an entire character in this movie for one single joke.
Yes, yes. There's a bunch to this movie that's really funny. Honestly, I probably need to watch through it again. It'd probably make it even more funny watching it through it again. I like this movie. Great movie. Definitely check it out. Um, I was probably a little delirious watching it last night, but still a great movie. Definitely check it out.
Honestly, that might make the movie even better. Watching it sleep deprived, hyped up on caffeine.
Maybe, maybe it might be. It might be. Have done the trick for it. But yes, definitely a great movie. And we just kind of glossed over a lot of it. There's so many jokes being made in that movie. It's a hilarious movie. So yeah, go check that out if any of this interests you. Um, anything else, David?
Nope, you headed that outro.
Now is then and then is now. All right. So thank you for sticking around all the way to the end of this episode and for the chaos that was this episode. Please leave a like on the video if you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. And leave a comment down below telling us what you liked, what you didn't like about this episode. Let us know what your thoughts are on Spaceballs, the movie. And be sure to join us next week on X-Wing Radio.